Hello and welcome to the Creating Healthy Wealth and Motherhood podcast with me, your host, PT Morgan of leveragedmama.com. Welcome to episode 10 of the podcast. In 2017, I wrote a blog post about credit card debt, and this is 3 years ago now. I gave my very clear views on what I thought about credit card debt. In fact, I was kind of annoying, I think, a little bit like an ex-smoker who's just given up in their first year of giving up. You know, they're like, oh, yuck, smoking is so gross. Well, I was a bit like that with credit cards. So what I have found interesting is reading through old blog posts. So a few things have changed since 2017. This was a year after I cut my credit cards up. I had postnatal depression. Now, if you have ever had depression or experienced someone else's depression, you may realise that their personalities are a bit different. They act in different ways, or for me personally, I was less empathetic to other people, and I was pretty blunt in the way that I talked about my ideas and my opinions. It was a bit in your face. I don't think I'm like that anymore, hopefully not. Sometimes I might be if I've got PMS, aren't we all? But I'm not ashamed of what I wrote back then, still. This is the thing, when you are a content creator, you've got to put things out there that you know the internet is going to remember forever, even if you do delete it. So putting your opinions out there, especially in times of change, can be a little bit scary, but that is what I've committed to as a blogger, putting my message out there. Sometimes it changes, okay, and that's fine. The intent is to share my story and my journey so that I can help other people through theirs. So what I'm going to do today is read through that post, and most of you who are listening and following me at this point won't have read that post. It was a very long post, but it'll be shorter when I read it, don't worry. I'm going to read that to you, and then I'm going to let you know what I think about credit cards now. I'm going to talk about, has my attitude towards them changed? Do I feel differently about them? Do I have any credit cards now? This is the important thing. And let's just kind of reassess. So, October the 20th, 2017. Credit card debt. The trap, the hook, and the freedom. Hey Leverage Mamas. Today we're talking about credit card debt. The trap that lenders create for us, and how they keep us hooked. It's not going to be an easy conversation. Becoming a leveraged mama is about using the time and income you have in the best possible way, so that you can achieve a beautiful balance with time, money, kids, and happiness. We're working together towards achieving this then without major sacrifice and suffering. But this isn't going to be without the occasional difficult conversation, or the occasional awkwardness when I raise topics that make you turn downright uncomfortable and want to turn away. Depending on your circumstances and the choices that you have made so far to manage your money, today could be one of those times. I'm going to make every effort to tread gently, but there's still every chance that this topic may trigger you. And when I say trigger, I mean this. If what I raise today proposes a big change to the way that you manage your money, what's actually going to happen is that your amygdala, a part of your brain designed to alert you to danger, is going to fire up and get you ready to do one of two things: fight or flight. Practically speaking, it means that you may feel anger or want to hammer away at the keyboard to tell me exactly what you think of me, or why you think I'm totally wrong and out of line. That's the fight response. Or you may just want to stop reading and turn away, dismissing what you've read as misinformed and just plain stupid. That might be the flight response. This is totally normal. If it happens, just note that feeling and understand what it means. Your amygdala fires up when danger or discomfort looms. It's preparing you to deal with or run away from the threat. And the bigger the potential change, the more likely it is to be uncomfortable. So the amygdala is doing its job. It's alerting you to potential discomfort. Why do I know so much about this? I'm not a psychologist. No, I'm not a psychologist, but in my professional role as an agile coach, I'm often faced with bringing big change to people, and I see this response all the time. I think it's important that you're at least aware of it so that you can make an informed choice about whether you keep reading/listening today. Because today I'm going to really challenge a societal norm, and it's highly likely that some of the behaviours I'm going to challenge are embedded in your life. Just know this first before you read on. It's not actually your fault, and in due course I'll explain why. Over the past year, I've done an excruciating money bootcamp, and this is back in 2016, editor's note, and it's brought me to where I stand today, enlightened and shocked yet relieved. I need to set the scene that caused this ultimate showdown. It wasn't as if I just woke up one day and thought, I'm going to totally upheave my family and cause us a heap of discomfort because why not? But we really had no choice. Before I became pregnant, we had a swathe of credit and store cards, none near the limit, but all just chugging away with some level of debt. I was actually proud of them, the unused portions, that is. Look at how much unused credit we have. But when I was 6 months pregnant, I was made redundant. I received a small redundancy payment, but nowhere near what was required to replace the income I would lose. Lucky we had all that unused credit, right? The credit that would and did become our backup. And when our savings ran out, the debt rose and rose and rose. Then our landlord decided in the hot housing market to sell. So we had to move from a fully furnished house into a house with not a scrap of furniture. Lucky we had those store cards. But by the time we had moved to a new rental, our savings depleted and our credit almost at its limit, I knew we had to do something drastic. By this time, I was working again, but not full time, so we had less total income coming in. Our pre-baby lifestyles were coming back to bite us. Our credit card debt was at an all-time high, and it was suffocating. Every time I had to turn to use credit, I felt sick. I felt really trapped, and it felt really wrong. So I cut up all of our credit cards. Okay, that's not entirely how it went down. I actually spent months crafting a new budget to look at all of the different ways we could manage without using credit. And there weren't actually many. So firstly, I consolidated what I could. Even though I think consolidated loans are stupid, I think they're a band-aid for bad behaviours. By consolidating our credit card debt, it meant that we could close off 3 of our 4 credit cards. But more importantly, consolidating your credit cards into a loan removes the ability for you to continue using them. So, yes, that meant I could no longer use them as a source of revolving credit. You know, when you pay off an amount and just use it again, if not more. The remaining credit card, with a few thousand on it and the store cards, went into a container in the freezer. I froze them, metaphorically and literally. I'll talk more about the wisdom of freezing your credit cards later, but on with my dramatic story right now. Do you know what happened after I froze my cards? Only the biggest financial showdown I have ever had in my life. Once the cards were gone, I had no choice but to save for everything my family needed. My money shadow was seriously exposed. I had to do some serious rebudgeting to make sure that we could cover all of our upcoming expenses without turning to credit or store cards as a backup. No more instant gratification. A number of very uncomfortable money conversations with my spouse. Ed's note, this was before we had our money meetings. It was actually really, really painful. But why would I do this to myself? Because I had a bone to pick with debt, specifically dumb debt, and not just credit card debt. Credit cards, store cards, personal loans, consolidated loans to pay off credit cards and personal loans. It's all dumb debt. I'm doing air quotes. Why is it dumb debt? Well, it's dumb for many reasons, but this is what dumb debt is technically. Dumb debt is money borrowed to pay for something that reduces in value. For example, clothing, makeup, food and beverages, cars, coffees, furniture, holidays. Okay, so it's pretty much everything except property. And even then, there is no 100% guarantee that your property will go up in value over time. Smart debt, conversely, is money borrowed for something that increases in value. But my 2 cents about why I think it's really dumb. I just got the pun there. So funny. Dumb debt steals from your future. For every dollar that you spend today that you don't have, it's a dollar that you have to pay back tomorrow. It's a dollar you have to earn in the future to pay off the dollar you spent today. Dumb debt makes you work harder. For every dollar of interest you pay on dumb debt, it's a dollar you have to earn, and it increases the original price of your purchase. It's a dollar you have to earn. It's a dollar you can't use. It's a dollar gone to the marketing efforts that will get you to incur more dumb debt. Interest on dumb debt is paid directly from the hours you work. How many hours a year do you work to pay interest on dumb debt? Dumb debt makes you think you're wealthier than you are. It lulls you into a false sense of wealth. You can have what you want when you want it, even if you don't have any real money to pay for it. Dumb debt prevents you from learning good spending habits. Because there are less constraints, you're really put in a position where you have to manage your money properly. It just keeps coming. And when you run out, they'll lend you more. And when you really run out, they'll consolidate it for you so that you can later get another credit card. Dumb debt is not your friend. If you want to leverage your time and income, working today to pay off something you bought yesterday doesn't make any sense at all. Paying interest on items that lose value makes no sense at all. Living outside of your means for any other reason than an absolute emergency makes no sense at all. Actually, living outside your means makes no sense at all. Do you have dumb debt? Look, if you do, you're not alone. In today's society, we're led to believe it's okay. Everyone has a credit card, right? Like, really, they do. And once the credit runs out or the interest-free period from your balance transfer, you can use your store cards. No store cards? No worries. Just lay-by or afterpay or. There's plenty more things you can do now. Buy now, pay later. Why wait? If you're still reading, listening, and you have a bit of dumb debt hanging around, I applaud you for still listening. But I don't want you to feel bad about it, so here's the truth. It's not your fault. I'm going to say that again. It's not your fault. It is not your fault. And here's why. This is a really good argument. Okay, so we're about to go super deep here. Super geeky. But it's worth it, I promise. Much of what we instinctively do is driven by our primitive brain. Functions of our brain that were formed to keep us alive. Back when we were hunter-gatherers living in caves, before we had money, before we traded, before the housing crisis. In this case, when we can't wait until we have saved the money required to purchase something, we are seeking instant gratification. Instant gratification equals dopamine. Getting instant gratification triggers the pleasure and reward centers in your brain, and we get a little hit of dopamine. Even thinking about receiving a reward of some sort triggers drip feeding of dopamine. Crazy, hey? Try it. Try thinking about doing, consuming, partaking in something that you really enjoy doing. Do you feel that? Yep. That is a dopamine hit. Dopamine is nice, real nice, and it makes us feel great. Reward-seeking behaviour was initially about survival. So you craved the things that kept you and your species alive, like food and water and sex for reproduction. Get the reward, receive the dopamine treat. Yay, bliss. However, the brain likes to automate, so it learns through trial and error what makes you happy. And once it sees a potential reward, it goes into reward-seeking mode and starts drip-feeding you dopamine until you get the reward. If this sounds like addictions to you, you would be right, because it's the same part of the brain that is triggered with addictions and addictive behaviour. But here's the problem with dopamine in your future. When dopamine is released, it blocks the prefrontal it blocks the prefrontal cortex. Maybe there was a bit of blocking going on there. The logical, problem-solving part of our brain, from weighing up your long-term goals against the reward you seek. So this is so that you'll do whatever it takes to get that reward that you seek. You are driven to satiate the craving. Ever find yourself impulse buying or impulse doing? Yep, that. So dopamine is all about rewards now, and survival is all about now. Eat now or you'll die. Reproduce now or we'll all die. But somewhere along the thousands of years of evolution of our species, we have confused that. Buy those new shoes now or die. Buy that new furniture now or die. No, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense, does it? But dopamine is actively trying to stop you from thinking about that when a reward is in sight. So yes, dopamine. It's not your fault entirely. You just want your dopamine hit, and instant gratification allows you to get it. But banks and retailers know about your dopamine habit. They know you want instant gratification, so they make every effort to make it easy for you to get instant gratification. Who are you to prevent this? Herein lies the problem with dopamine seeking. But okay, you might think, that's fine, I can handle a little bit of credit card debt. What's the real problem with dumb debt? Well, the problem with dumb debt is that it doesn't go away until you pay for it. You can't sell what you've bought and repay the debt. Well, you might be able to sell some of it, but you're not going to get the same value you paid for it originally because it loses value. So you will always be paying off tomorrow or something that you bought yesterday. It's money you can't spend today. That's money that's not earning you interest for today. We're earning you interest specifically. It's earning someone else interest. That's payments you have to make even if you lose your job or get sick or some other unpredictable life event affects you. That is money that you must earn today. But. Okay, so let's talk about 2 credit card hooks that keep us dependent on credit. I remember asking in my Facebook group back then, before this blog post was written, about why people had credit cards, and I kind of mined them for information on this. So let's just talk about dumb debt hooks, and maybe I'll be able to convince you that credit cards don't deserve a place in your lives, but maybe not. So the first hook is, I just use it for the rewards. I'm biting my lip here. I mean, let's just cut to the chase here. I can hear the lenders yelling, "You want rewards? We've got 'em." No subtlety whatsoever. Remember those rewards, reward seeking? Honestly, it's like somebody walking up to you at a party and saying, "Let's have sex." There's no introduction, no prelude, no wooing, just let's cut to the chase and just do it, okay? But sadly, we just lap this all up because we're reward seeking. Credit card companies offer these rewards so that you think you're getting something for free. But you know that nothing's truly free, right? Those rewards are offered to keep you hooked, so that even if you do manage to pay off your credit cards every month, you still have access to money that isn't yours. Here's a problem with that, and this is what the credit providers know. When the shiz goes down, i.e. job loss, illness, economic downturn, any kind of unpredictable event that affects your financial situation, who or what do you turn to? Who's got your back? Yep, your credit cards. Which brings me to hook number 2 that's keeping you addicted to credit. Hook number 2. But what if there's an emergency? Yep, okay, that's a fair concern. Emergencies, mostly unpredictable events that you couldn't have planned for. We don't want to get short and not be able to feed our families or keep a roof over our heads if something drastic happens. But it is possible, actually, to put aside money for emergencies without knowing what they might be, before they happen. It just takes 3 ingredients for all of us, no matter what your financial situation or income. And that is a bold statement. It takes money, plus planning, plus time. The less money you have, the more time you'll need. An emergency fund is actual cash that you can use in case of an actual emergency. The reason many people don't have an emergency fund is because their emergency fund is credit of some sort, like mine was. But it really boils down to a lack of planning, because we all have time and we all have some amount of money. All right, Patty, you've sure convinced me. Credit card debt is bad, but what do I do about it? I'm sorry about the American accent. I don't know where that came from. If I have done my job here today, my poor American accent, sorry, I love American accents. If I've done my job here today, you may be having an uncomfortable realization that perhaps credit card debt isn't really your friend. It might be something you already knew and are just looking for confirmation of that feeling. Remember, we tend to seek out confirmation of the things we read and listen to confirm what we're already thinking. It might be that you've been telling yourself the things that you need to hear to justify having credit card debt. But I believe that credit card debt is inherently wrong, and it negatively affects so many layers of our society, because credit encourages instant gratification and bad planning. Credit card debt steals from your future to pay for your past. But how do you get away from this lifelong habit, this perfectly acceptable way of living? Well, I've spent the last year doing just that, and that's what I'm pulling apart in this series of posts on The Leverage Mama. How to plan it out and exactly what you need to do to escape the debt credit trap. All right. So that was the post. It was in October 2017, that's almost 3 years ago. And reading back through it now, I definitely sense the biggest difference is that I had less empathy for the different situations that we can get into that mean that we end up depending on having credit, either using credit cards just to live by because we have to, or using them as our emergency funds. I think that lack of empathy was more about scorn for my own situation and kind of telling myself off, like, how could you get into that situation? Oh, you're so silly. And that's really come across in my writing. It's come across in my attitude towards others with credit card debt. But I have learned to have a lot more compassion with myself, so much more compassion with myself, and therefore my audience as well. I really do feel a lot more empathetic, and I think partly that's because I'm not depressed anymore. So I can think a little bit more outside of myself and feel a bit more empathy for others. I feel that post was a bit scorny, a bit tally-offy, to be honest. A lot of really good points in there, I think, that are still really valid. Do I still think that credit cards are a bad idea? I do, because there is a bank. Their motto is be good with money. But how are you teaching that to your customers when you offer them credit in times of real need? That isn't teaching you how to be good with money. That's allowing you to be a poor planner. So I still think that credit cards are inherently bad. And I know you're all wondering, do I have one today? No. I still don't have any. But that did not stop me from trying to apply for a credit card a couple of years ago because the rewards lured me. I thought we could shift a lot of our spending onto a credit card and get rewards for that. I almost fell back into that trap. I even added up all of the rewardable spending we were doing that we could shift to a credit card. Thankfully, they actually refused to give it to me. I am so grateful for this. because I had a real moment of weakness there. This is not to say that I won't ever apply for a credit card again, but it would be a little bit like me starting smoking again. I smoked when I was late teens, early 20s. It doesn't align with my values. I don't believe it is a good thing. I would only be smoking because I had gotten sucked back into that trap. So, no, I don't think they're a good thing, but I understand now that there are so many different reasons why people get into this situation. It is a multifaceted, it's never just, you're just bad with money. It's never just about that. There are always conditions that create this situation, like not having a great financial education perhaps, or maybe you have always had a good paying job and never really thought about your credit cards much and just used them as a habitual thing, and then came across hard times and now you're stuck with them. Maybe. Who knows? And that's quite frankly your business. So who am I to tell you that this is a wrong thing to do? You do what, and you would have heard me say this so many times before, you do what you believe is best for you at the time, based on what you know and understand at the time. And that's it. So if you've got a credit card, that's fine. We can still be friends. With the purpose of Leverage Mama, although we are shifting towards more income creation than income preservation these days, I still believe that it doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you are spending it on things like credit card interest or things you bought yesterday, it isn't the best use of your monies and your income. So there are better ways, and you can make more out of your income by getting rid of credit card debt. So I still believe that banks and lenders can be a bit more responsible than they are these days. I still believe that more financial education is required so that we can avoid having to resort to using credit cards at any time. I still believe that we need to be more aware of the way our minds work, the way our brains work, and things like that whole reward-seeking behaviour. You're responding to the advertising because they know how your brain works. So really it's up to you to figure out how your brain works as well, so that you don't get sucked into things like I did, and probably will again. I would love to hear where you're at on your journey, your financial journey, in terms of income preservation. Do you feel that you could be doing more to preserve your income and to be better with your spending than you are currently? Or do you feel like you've got it really dialed in? If you want to drop me a voicemail on the Anchor app about this episode, please do. I hope that you didn't feel triggered by that blog post. And if you did and you keep listening, then I'm flaming proud of you. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've listened and enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review on the podcast. This will help other mamas out there who might need to hear this discover the podcast. If you want to join us in the Facebook group, Creating Healthy Wealth in Motherhood, come on in and have a chat. I'd love to get your feedback, your questions, and to get to know you. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.